Hey y'all, hey, it's JJ Conway. Welcome to Building Wealth Together, where our goal is to help you walk in abundance and leave a legacy. It's Mindset Monday, where we take the best teachings on mindset, motivation, and leadership and apply them to your life. This helps you get past the past and grow forward into abundance. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, it's JJ. We're back for a continuation of our study of Change Your World by John Maxwell. For those of you who are interested, you can go to changeyourworld.com and you can get access to the roundtables, the transformation roundtables that we have been using. We are wrapping up our Monday night and our Tuesday morning roundtables. I am not 100% sure I'm going to lead any more roundtables, so if that is something you are interested in, or if you would like me to bring it virtually to your organization, please do reach out to me. Otherwise, you can go out to the John Maxwell page at changeyourworld.com, I think it is, and you can actually register for a roundtable. They'll give you an assessment that tells you where you are and what goals you want to look for as far as being a change agent, and then you'll be matched to a round table that suits your time and your availability. So I highly encourage that. I think sometimes we don't realize how powerful it is to be in a group with others, and especially when we're capable people. When we're capable people, we can read a book and we can implement the steps on our own. And when I was in the military, we had this thing with checklists, read a step, do a step, get a banana. And when you're really good at reading and implementing, you kind of don't realize that there's actually a multiplicative power, an exponential power. I don't have any more three-syllable words to use, but there's a huge power that comes from getting together and being in a group of like-minded people on the same level, people who have the same values but think different thoughts. And so you want to look into that. If you really feel this call on your heart to be a catalyst for change, but you're not sure how to get from point A to point B. So what we're going to talk about today is being a catalyst for change, what that means, and how you can take a step today that will help you be better suited for being a candidate for change later. All right. Steve Jobs says the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are usually the ones who do. And John Maxwell and Rob Hoskins, they remind us that when it comes to making a positive difference in the world, change only occurs when someone, somewhere, takes responsibility for changing him or herself and takes action to help others change too. Without the actions of some person, change just doesn't happen. And honestly, we have seen that in our lives. We have seen that there are so many people who would much rather complain. Hey, we may even have been that person. There are times where it's just so, you just feel like you're doing something just to complain about it. But really, that doesn't change anything. And the other thing that I want to point out, now, John doesn't write these words, but this is what I'm reading through these stories, right? One of the things that I have noticed about people who have implemented amazing changes or who have written amazing policies or they have just done these amazing things, and you kind of look at them and you don't realize until you get to know them a little bit how just amazing they are, right? One of the things that I've noticed about these people that I'm so inspired by is that very few of them said, oh, I'm going to go out there and change countries or change the world or even change my city or change my state. They just set out to be an agent of good and an agent of change. And one step led to another, led to another, led to another. And as each challenge came along, or as each opportunity for change came along, they heeded the call. They said yes, and they moved forward. So one of the stories that we're introduced to is Norman Borlaug, who was a Nobel Prize winner. And I'm not going to read verbatim his story, but I am going to tell you a little bit about it, okay? Because he had to work through school, and he graduated from college with graduate degrees in plant pathology in the middle of World War II. And so he had this thing on his heart about helping countries like Mexico that at that time were having trouble producing enough crops to feed their people. And he did all this research and spent these countless hours, and he did all these other things. But while other people pointed out the problems with feeding humanity. And while other people were pointing fingers and pointing to all of the resources that were drying up and making their predictions about how we weren't going to be able to sustain humanity, while everybody else was griping and complaining and whining and crying, Borlung worked. And he worked. And he found how to create strains of wheat that could produce more. Now, look, y'all know I'm on this brain health program, and you know one of the concerns they have is that the strains of food that we eat today is not as hearty and not as healthy as the strains of food that our ancestors ate. I get that. We're not going to debate about that today, okay? What we're going to highlight is that this man's research saved an entire country. And because he was a catalyst for change, and because he helped millions of people in Mexico, the governments of India and Pakistan also asked for his help. Their population growth in India was outpacing its ability to grow enough crops to feed the citizens. And once they started using the seeds that Borlung had developed in Mexico, the crisis in India was also averted. And like I said in the beginning of his story, he won the Nobel Peace Prize for his contributions to the world food supply. Now, I'm not gonna argue about what's happened to his work since and what people have done with it since in their pursuit of profit, okay? There's a reason why I'm minimizing wheat in my life, but the moral of the story here is change doesn't just happen. It happens because somebody has decided they are going to make a difference in whatever area they can make a difference in. And another thing that we can see about change is that it doesn't necessarily mean you always have the approval of everybody in your life. All his colleagues were basically complaining and whining and crying and laughing at him, but I tell you, they weren't laughing when he got that Nobel Peace Prize. All right? So how do we create change? How do we become the catalyst? Okay? And again, I tell you the story about him winning this Nobel Peace Prize, but remember, it wasn't his degrees and it wasn't the Nobel Prize. It was the small steps he took in the direction of his gifting, his calling, and his desire to help. Okay? And each one of us has something on our heart that can be used to enact positive change. And you know, right now, maybe it's your family that needs some positive change. You know, I got a little frustrated with all of these school closures and the kids being at home and all this other stuff. And I finally had to take a step back and realize this was an opportunity for me to connect with my family. And what I had been doing was trying so hard to build up my business and retire from the Air Force and prove that I was awesome and all those other fill in the blank things, right? I was so busy doing all that I was neglecting the beautiful relationships that had been set before me. And by paying greater attention to the family and giving them more attention and doing things to let them know how I care about them and just spending what Dr. Amen calls special time. See, I was spending time with my kids, y'all, but I was not spending special time with the kids. And special time is where you do not criticize. They want to play video games, you play video games. They want to be silly, you be silly. They want to say off the wall dumb things, you don't criticize. Guess how good mom was at that at first? Not at all, right? But for me, making that change instituted a change in the family dynamic. And it's really amazing what a small change can make. And it would be easy to say, well, I need to hold him accountable, or I need to do this, or I need to do that. But when you make the commitment to, I'm going to do the best I can do to bring peace and harmony to this household, and you start to walk with just that small change, now that brings peace and harmony to the household. And how proud was my heart the other day when we got lost. And I don't know, I still can't find this park, okay? Stephenville isn't but 10 minutes tip to tip. It's not like it should be hard for me to find this park, but we got lost somewhere and we came across this park, and there was this girl there and she was crying on the phone. She was trying to find a place to stay, and everybody who had told her to get out of her abusive relationship had basically pulled back on her. I guess they didn't think she was going to do it. And I'll tell you, if I hadn't pulled his phone later to see if he was texting these little girls, If I hadn't pulled his phone later, I almost began to wonder, because I couldn't find the park. I almost began to wonder if this actually happened or if I dreamed about it, you know? Sometimes when you're stressed out, you dream about stuff, and sometimes it'll be very, very real, right? But he had texted girls about this. I was so proud of him in this moment, because I talked to this lady long enough to make sure, was she serious or not? Because she didn't ask me for any money or anything, so she wasn't giving me a sob story to ask for help, right? Like if she'd asked me for money or something, I may not have believed her. But I prayed for her. I gave her some advice. She was like, "Well, I can't sleep in a Walmart parking lot." I'm like, "Look, I've slept in many a Walmart parking lot, and I've slept in many a rest station parking lot when I couldn't find me a place." I was like, "You can totally do it. You and your kids will be fine. You'll be fine for one night, and then you can go here, and you can go here, and you can go here." And so I laid her a plane to get where she needed to go, because everybody had told her to leave and backed down on her. But what I didn't realize was happening until I snuck my son's phone, is that he had ministered to the kids. And I'm telling you this, of course, it's not in John's book. This is just something that happened in my life, right? I'm telling you this because we underestimate the little things that we can do. And we underestimate the little kindness. And my son doesn't have a whole lot of spending cash, but he actually gave half of his spending cash that he had that day to the little boy and said, "When you guys get to where you're going, you buy yourself something nice." And my heart was so full. And as I was thinking about it and praying about it, like I was torn between being mad at him for doing this. I was torn between being mad at him for having texted these little girls and they're sending pictures back and forth. Thank goodness nothing to get him sent to jail. But each picture's getting worse and worse. And I'm like, hey, we need to nip this in the bud, right? So my heart is torn betwixt the two, right? I want to be mad at him, but then I read what he did for this other kid and the pictures that he took with this kid. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I am rearing a great kid. And when I started to pray about it, y'all, I could just be making this up. I'm not saying that this is a vision from God or anything. I'm not saying this is actually going to happen, but it could happen, all right? When I was thinking about it and praying about it, I could see this kid 20 years from now giving a TED Talk about how he and his mom and his sisters had left everything they knew to form a new life away from his abusive father, and how he didn't understand how God could love him until they stopped at this park to play, and this nice lady calmed mom down, and she had a son that gave me some money. And I'm telling y'all, this is not a vision from God, but this is just my Holy Ghost imagination, right? And in my mind, I saw him giving this TED Talk and pulling out that bill and saying every time he looks at it, he thinks about how amazing people are and how God is on his side. And so you never know what kind of impact your one action now could have 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 40 years from now. I'm sure my second grade teacher did not know when she took the time to work with me instead of writing me off like the two teachers before her and probably the next 3 or 4 after her, to be honest with you. She'll probably never know unless somebody forwards her my praise God for Mrs. Gilmore posts, right? If somebody never sends her those, she may never know that because of her, there are people all over the world who are now able to win with money because they didn't hear this voice and they couldn't hear that voice, and this financial planner was too judgmental, and that other financial planner didn't understand where they were coming from, and that financial planner ain't never been through nothing, but they heard my voice and they said, oh, she got out of $800,000 of debt. She went through a divorce. She was a single military mom. If she did it, I can do it. Don't ever underestimate the power that you hold in your hand to change the world. That second grade teacher has changed the world through me and probably through countless other students that she'll never know she impacted. I keep going. I'm trying to walk in greater gratitude. I keep going to some of my oldest son's former teachers and his sensei and other people that were influential in his life, especially during the time right after the divorce. And as I've been reaching out to people and just expressing my gratitude and letting them know how well he's doing, and thank you so much for being that voice of nurture and nature and calm and encouragement in his life at a difficult time, or his fourth grade teacher who, the school was trying to come against him and didn't want to implement his plan, but she had a son who was also ADHD, and she just worked with him, and his before and after care of the SAC folks there at Springfield Estates. Like, I just want to acknowledge and be grateful. And I've had several people come back to me and say, once a student is out of my care, nobody ever comes back to say thank you. And I'm like, well, I'm going to tell you right now, I thank you. And not only do I thank you, but indirectly, the thousands of people whose lives I have impacted and the millions of people whose lives I'm going to impact, they thank you. Because if you hadn't stepped in and taken care of my son, or helped encourage my son, or help educate my son, or help acclimatize my son, or help integrate my son, or fill in the blank that you did for my son, I wouldn't be where I am today. And not only am I called to change communities, but I'm pretty sure he's called to change communities too. And I guess this will be a good time to say thank you to all the teachers out there, because my husband is an educator, and I realize that you don't always get the appreciation. Like, I never really went back to appreciate all these people, and I've still got a long list of them to reach out to be honest with you. But I never realized it until I saw my husband pouring so hard into all these kids and getting very little feedback. And he doesn't need the feedback. He knows from his interaction. I mean, he's almost like a big brother to some and a dad figure to some others, right? And so he doesn't need that kind of stuff. But I thought about in my life, there are a lot of people who've helped me get where I am today, and they have poured into me and poured into my son. And so I'm starting to be more grateful, and I'm starting to walk in more gratitude and actually express the gratitude, right? The reason I'm telling you all this is because I think about all these people that have been coming to my awareness over the last year that I've been trying to walk in greater gratitude. And they never got a thank you, but they helped change the world. Whether they helped change the world through what he's going to grow up to do, or whether they helped change the world through how they're helping me. We are an international financial education company, and we've helped thousands, and like I said earlier, we're on our way to helping millions, right? And so those people may never have been helped without the sum total of everybody who made a little change in my life. And there are people out there, you make one little change, and that's going to have such a huge ripple effect that ultimately changes the world. And I recommend that you start with your personal world. I recommend that you start with your household. I recommend that you start with your household before branching out to change the rest of the world. See, I had that priority wrong. Now, just indulge me for a second, and then we're going to get back to John's book here, okay? I had that priority wrong for a long time. I was trying to change the world at church. I was trying to change the world through my work. I was trying to change the world through my volunteering. I was trying to change the world through my financial planning. But what I didn't realize is the very first ministry is in the home. And the very first place I needed to serve, and the very first people I needed to uplift, encourage, and nurture were the people who live under my roof. And guess who that includes? It's not just my husband. It's not just my 2 boys. But it also includes myself. And so when it comes to changing your world, I'm going to encourage you to start with you. Now, I say to start with you when it comes to enacting change, right? At the same time, it cannot be ignored that we really need other people. We all need one another. Cooperation says, let's just get along or nothing else gets done, right? But collaboration says, let's work together because this has to be done. It's like that thing in relationships. All my life I heard that marriage was a compromise. And I've realized, as I've had one failed marriage and had one that's working just fine, I've realized that compromise is really quite a dirty word, because compromise, even by its definition, it's basically we're both going to give up something to get an okay solution. And what I think most of us really want out of our marriages and out of our relationships with others and out of our volunteer experiences and all those things. I don't think we just want compromise. I don't think we want lower end solutions where you give up something and I give up something and we come to an okay. I think we want to collaborate and look for the highest win-win-win. Okay. So when we collaborate, everybody benefits. Okay. There's a great illustration that John gives on page 73. He talks about the coastal redwood trees. Now, I didn't know about this until I've seen them. They're beautiful, but I didn't know about this until I saw this here. He says, unlike many other trees that put down relatively deep roots, including a taproot, coastal redwoods, they don't. Even though the trees can grow to be nearly 400 feet tall, their roots are shallow, only going down 6 to 12 feet, but they spread out broadly, often more to 100 feet. And they grow in groves, with their roots interweaving together, making the trees stand strong together even in violent storms. Though they are the tallest trees in the world, redwoods rarely fall. No wonder they've been known to live for longer than 2,000 years. And I want to encourage you, as you seek to change your world, to find yourself a group of other redwoods where you can put down interconnected roots that will allow you to weather the storms of life, allow you to grow strong and tall, and allow you and your changes and your impact to persist when everything else is crumbling around you. When we bring together a support team, or when we build a team around us to help us get where we want to go, it's really important that everybody's on the same page. If I want to get over here and you want to get over there, well, some of the things that we may want together may overlap, but if we're not clear on what's what, then we may not actually end up getting anywhere, because we may be operating at cross purposes to what everybody wants. But when we're clear on what the end goal is, even if my goal for my life and my purpose for my life and my calling on my life is different from your calling, your purpose, and your vision for your life, as long as we're both walking together and we understand where each is trying to go, then we can lift each other and pull each other along and encourage each other, okay? If we're in a formal group to do this, okay, sometimes we might be in an informal group to collaborate and help be that support system for each other. But if we're in a formal group, it's important to have a shared measurement system. How to know if we're actually accomplishing anything, you got to define the measurement system. And a lot of the mastermind groups that I've been a part of when it comes to business measure success in terms of money, or measure success in terms of fill in the blank accomplishments. So like if I'm in a podcast group, it may be measuring success in terms of download growth, like how many downloads am I getting now versus how many do I have in the next 3 months, right? Like, am I experiencing growth? Am I experiencing new markets or things like that? Okay. And so when it comes to changing your world in ways that are less monetarily or statistics defined, it's still important to understand how you're going to measure your success. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I have done a lot of things for a lot of people. I have helped a lot of people. I have spent thousands of hours of energy doing for others. I have baked, I have cooked, I have cleaned, I have had people in my house, I have traveled, I have paid for other people's missionary travel. I have done, and did, and spent, and talked, and comforted, encouraged, and prayed, and preached, and played with the kids while the main preacher was speaking. I've done all the things. But without an adequate measure of success, we could be expending our energy, our time, our resources, our very life force for nothing. And so even if you're in a nonprofit space, I encourage you to look for ways to measure your impact. Now, there are a lot of other really good tips in here for building a network, a support network, a community network, how to communicate and things like that. And of course, we've got very limited time. So, what I want to do is I want to close out with a discussion of why the value tables that we recommend with this course are so important. And again, I'm finishing up my value tables, my transformation tables, and I'm not sure I'm personally going to lead more. Now, I'll bring them into your company or to your youth-based or other civic organization, nonprofit organization. I'm happy to do that. But unless I'm requested to do that with people who, oh, you know what, that's not even coming out right. Okay, never mind. I'm probably not going to lead them just because I'm time limited right now, and unless somebody really requests it or really thinks that my voice is the right voice to help facilitate these transformation tables in their organization, then I'm probably not going to lead another one. But we have hundreds of trained, amazing facilitators out there at the Change Your World website that can help lead you in the transformation tables. And the reason this is so important, okay? The reason it's important is not because of the size of your dream, although the larger your dream, the more other people you're going to need to make that dream happen, right? But it's because in order to be the best person you can be, you want to surround yourself with people who will help you get stronger, people who will challenge you. John writes, if you want to change your world in a big way, then you know what you need to do. Team up. And in order to team up when we have a big dream on our heart, we have to get the people around us on the same page. We have to give them a cause to rally around. We have to understand that people aren't with us just because of the cause. They're with us because of the cause and the connection that they have with others, the connection that they have with us. I mean, everybody wants to be part of something bigger than themselves, right? Now, maybe not everybody, but most people, most people are always searching for meaning and they want to live a life of purpose, okay? So most people are looking for a way to be involved in something that they're passionate about that they can do with other like-minded people. And so when you give them an opportunity to be part of this story that allows them to express their deeper desires and highest aspirations and help change the world, make the world a better place, you've got the perfect combination that allows them to receive value from their giving. Now, I would encourage you to take a look at the relationships and the organizations that you frequent in your life and think about what draws you. Because, there are a lot of attempts at making a move that actually don't get anywhere. And I hate to admit it, but I find that most of the organizations I have volunteered for are characterized by a lot of the things that I'm about to tell you before we close. And the reason I'm telling you this is because I don't want you wasting your time in an organization that is not fully utilizing your talent or in an organization that is impeded by these things. I, over the last 5 years, have been steadily releasing myself from organizations that seemed empowering and encouraging, but when you dug into it, they suffered from these very same things. And those things can be a lack of unity. The lack of unity in what it is that the organization is supposed to be doing, whether it's volunteer or paid. Absence of a positive goal. Okay? Because it's really difficult to create a focused agenda and build a movement when you're against something instead of for something. I remember that story someone told me about Mother Teresa, that she wouldn't march in a campaign against war. But if you invited her to march in a campaign for peace, that was a different story. She's not going to fight against anything. She's going to fight for something. And we have that lesson. Fight for the best deal. We don't want to fight against. We want to walk in positivity and fight for. So having a positive goal is essential. Because what happens when we're fighting against? Venting, negative emotion, right? That's not what we want, okay? So sometimes the organizations have a lack of unity. Sometimes the organization itself has not yet realized the difference of the words, and they don't have a positive goal. A lot of times, this is what I'm finding, a lot of times organizations suffer from inadequate leadership, or leadership that allows their human faults, frailties, and pettiness to get in the way, okay? So I've volunteered with many organizations that had great goals and great missions, but I had to extricate myself from them, because at the end of the day, I just couldn't continue to be associated with the leaders who did things in a less than excellent manner. Now, granted, I'm not going to require everybody to live to the standard that I've called for in my life, but you got to treat people right, and you've got to seek to grow. And too many leaders think that they are absolutely excellent leaders without ever realizing that leadership is actually a skill. It's not just something you do because you're the best salesperson. You don't just become a good leader because you're the best scientist or the best salesperson or the best financial planner or the best teacher or the best activist. That's not necessarily leadership. Okay, there are many components that allow you to be the best, that also allow you to be a good leader. But it's essential that the organizations we're going to give our time, sweat, and tears to, or the organizations that we create and want to attract quality people, it is essential that the leaders of those organizations understand that leadership is a skill to be developed, and that they are actively seeking to develop those skills in themselves. Great resource on that is Marshall Goldsmith's What Got You Here Won't Get You There. All right. And so leadership, unity, positive vision, organizational support, being willing to put those support functions in place. And then another one that I find is very interesting, and we're going to close on this point. One of the things that I find is very interesting in a lot of transformative organizations, or those that seek to transform and may not be as effective as they should be, is they think that if they could just get more money, that would solve all the problems. Get more donations, throw more money at the problem, and then everything will be okay. And I'm going to tell you, as a financial planner, as a business person, as a mom, as an Air Force officer for 23 years, all these different things that I've done, I can tell you right now, money and resources usually are not the problem. They can be a symptom of the problem. They can exasperate the problem, but they are usually not the problem. Throwing money at a problem that is poorly defined doesn't help you solve it any better. Now, it could buy more options, it could buy more solutions, it could buy more this and that, but the most effective, efficient way of solving a problem would be to properly define it, have unity of effort, have solid leadership. Okay, more money doesn't always solve that problem. All right, I have so much more I could say on this. I hope you will pick up a copy of the book. I hope you will join in the efforts that are going out. You can go to rebrand.ly/CYW for Change Your World, and that will take you to a page where you can learn more about all of this. I'm JJ Conway. I want to thank you for being on with us today. Y'all take care and be blessed.
Love the podcast? Be sure to like, subscribe, and forward to 3 friends. You can ask a question or take a life-changing class at buildingwealthtogether.com. Now, go walk in abundance and leave a legacy.